From injuries, to death threats, to guitar riffs more excellent than Bill or Ted. What's up, disgenerates? It's the Disc Golf World, recapping everything disc golf you need to know from over the weekend. I'm Jefferson, and alongside me as always, the one with all the holes in his game, Swiss Cheese. Before we get into the MCO recap, we gotta highlight everything that went down. It's usually right around this part of the tour where it all starts melting together in my head, but I will for sure never forget this Music City Open. It started with MVP's team nearly falling apart. Both Eagle McMahon and Simon Lazat mentioned possibly not playing at the press conference. Eagle ended up not playing, deciding to take one more week before making his return at Champions Cup. Thankfully, his arm is in good shape, as this was just due to some back pain. Actually, he casually mentioned that he's been throwing the new MVP disc 600 feet with ease. I have a harder time comprehending that than someone who can throw their putting putters. Just gross. I'll be excited to see how he returns, but I have a feeling playing 4 rounds at Northwood might not be the greatest place to start your season. Or maybe it'll be perfect since you won't have to throw many full power shots. The other odd thing that happened this weekend was the whole mass shooting threat. Yeah, that happened. If you want to hear more about it, check out the video here. But I will say, I found it extremely odd that it took someone literally threatening to kill people for a professional sports organization to decide it might be a good idea to, I don't know, check bags. Even this guy is doing a better job. Thankfully, nothing happened, and some players even had extra measures in place to ensure their safety. And some good news, I didn't really hear any other complaints this weekend. Well, at least not one consistent problem. But I don't think there will ever be a time a disc golfer doesn't have something to complain about. Or maybe that's just us. Specifically though, I'm talking about T-pads, since these are the new standard for the 2025 season. The only issue I heard was they didn't track mud well. So after some rain on day 1, I heard the murmurs under the breath of some players. The only other thing was the moment Chris Dickerson stepped off the tee of hole 14 that buckled his knee. Every time I see a raised T-pad, all I think is liability. Although, it is often followed with, "F*** that was a cool shot." Here's what Jeff Spring, the tour director, had to say about the T-pads.
The XStep Pro pad is an official turf of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We went through, some development with the manufacturer who's worked with AstroTurf actually on the back end. And we've seen a couple versions, got it to this final, kind of product, which is the XStep Pro pad. Just a lot of testing. There's a lot of different grain lengths, and across the board, players like a smaller grain length where it's a faster T-pad. They won't have as much friction and they can move their feet without seeing grain, kind of slow that movement down. The one issue is that all T-pads need to be installed correctly. We have protocols and procedures on that. So whether you're using this turf or, events can get a waiver if they have another turf that's similar and that we look at and approve.
The FPO shaped up to be the tightest battle it had seen on the year. Kristen Tatar and Holland Hanley heading into Championship Sunday, both tied at 10 under for the main event. On one side, you have one of the greatest winners the FPO has ever seen, who was the defending champion at this event. The other, a promising athlete who has yet to break through for a victory on the DGPT. The large crowd, one of the biggest on tour thus far, was overwhelmingly rooting in Tatar's favor. Would have an absolute gut punch that hit harder than Tennessee whiskey after the very first hole. Tatar would need a C2 putt just to save bogey, and saw Hanley take an early one-stroke lead. Yeah, you heard that correct, a bogey save from C2 on a 308-foot hole. Coming out with an early stroke lead could not have been a better start for Holland. Plays the best when she has a lead, only magnified when playing Tatar in front of all these crowds and cameras. Things would not get much better for Tatar, or the ones cheering for her. With another bogey only 2 holes later, this one due to an uncharacteristic 2-putt from within C1X. Here, 3 holes in, and Hanley has now taken a 2-stroke lead by simply shooting par. Both would finally notch their first birdie on hole 4, with Tatar following that up with another birdie the next hole, getting one of those strokes she was down to Hanley. Holland just couldn't get things working, as this has been a storyline of hers for most of the year, with highlight rounds sprinkled in where the same control and confidence is lost the very next day. Couldn't have been more evident where she missed back-to-back birdie putts from inside the circle on the very next 2 holes. The 2-putt on 6 was even more devastating, adding that it should have resulted in a 2-stroke swing, with Tatar parring the hole ahead of her. You cannot let off on Tatar and give her additional strokes in these moments and expect to win, even with a lead, only for her to 2-putt the very next hole, erasing the early lead Tatar afforded you from the start, after she would birdie again on 7. For Holland, it wouldn't get much better after relinquishing her lead on 7, as her first DGPT victory slowly slipped away from her fingers, with her throwing OB on hole 8, resulting in a bogey. What does Tatar do? Buries a 45-foot birdie putt for a 2-stroke swing and now a lead. Would extend it again with another birdie, as Holland's putt would cost her with her third 2-putt from C1X on the front half, giving Tatar a 3-stroke lead with only the back half to play and Holland's game in no condition to compete. Tatar would play even on the back half and cruise her way to her second Qatar trophy, with a 4-stroke victory this time. Unlike other dominating performances, Tatar only led in one stat, and that was fairway over the entire weekend, but still had an easy victory. Holland just couldn't wait to get off the course after that performance, finishing the round 1 over for the day for a second-place finish. With the scores being packed together and Silva Saarinen's disaster of a final day where she did not register a birdie, the door was open for whoever wanted to throw an under round to land a podium spot. Henna Blomroos, who took a page out of Evelina's book, would be that player. Henna shot a 4-under day where she went 50% from C1X on the round. Fortunately for her, she only recorded 2 putts from within that distance, as her average putt during the round was below 6 feet. This is the best finish of the season for Henna, and until she gets more confidence in her putt like Evelina, putting herself into makeable range certainly will help build that confidence.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
A wise man once said, "Twice or it's luck." I know he's won it 3 times, so there's no need to comment. I was just trying to make a joke. Damn. Simon Lazat must have felt pretty comfortable going into the day with a 2-stroke lead. I mean, I told you after day 1 that he needed to start thinking of the first song he'd play after he won his second guitar. For being real though, the only reason he won was because Bear Bite was there. He started off his round getting all the birdies in the front loop for a turkey. Would par 4, but that would be his only one for the front half, going on a birdie stretch from holes 5 to 9. Simon would slow down on the back half, snagging 3 birdies, but after a poor scramble on 16, would settle with 1 bogey for the day, banging 11 out of his 12 C1X putts, continuing a masterclass weekend on the putting green, going 96% from inside the circle all weekend. Combine that with a 41% from C2, and it would make sense why he averaged 1065 rated disc golf. Simon would be ahead of the next closest player by 5 strokes, just to display his dominance over the field. After this victory, no MPO player has as many wins as Lazat since May 2022, as this would be his 7th. But some of you really didn't think he was going to live up to that contract. Paul McBeth would have his best finish since his win last season at the PCS Open. Started off his round with a birdie on 1, but after only 2 more birdies on the front, would need to pick it up quickly if he wanted a chance. Got the birdies on holes 10 and 12, then would smack a 63-footer on 14. Too bad he would go on a bogey the next hole, only to go on and birdie the next 2. Well, that would give him a solo second place and only 5 strokes back of Simon. Finished the day 8 for 9 in C1X and went 2 for 7 from outside. Ricky Wysocki jumped up 2 spots the final round, putting him tied for a podium finish. If only he could have stayed in bounds. Got the birdie to start it off, but would find trouble on the next hole before going on a 3-hole birdie stretch. Would find his first par of the round before securing 2 more birdies on 7 and 8. Ricky would then find 3 more birdies in the back half, but also would find the OB more times than he would have liked. Even worse, finished with a bogey. On the bright side, he would go 100% from C1X, going 12 for 12 and nailed 4 out of his 5 C2 looks. That would be Ricky's second podium finish of the season. A good bounce back event after back-to-back outside the top 10 tournaments. Chris Dickerson found himself tied for his first podium of the year at 23 under. Got the birdie on 1, but as Ian Anderson would say, erased it after a bogey on 2. Did another one of those birdie-bogey flip-flop things and decided like McDonald's breakfast at 11? Stop. Picked up birdies on holes 9 and 10 before going on a 5-hole birdie stretch, starting on hole 12, going until 16. Finishing his round at 7 down, going 7 for 8 from C1X and hit 1 from circle 2. Dickerson has been playing his best disc golf so far this year. Not sure what's up with all these injured players doing good, but I guess keep it up.
Man, this entire weekend had plenty of storylines and the biggest names in the sport involved in all the action. Paul McBeth, a Simon victory, and a resurgence of some of the old guard making their presence still felt. Yet what Jeremy Big Germ Coling was able to accomplish on just the last 2 days in the worst conditions should not be lost on fans. He climbed 44 spots with an 11 under yesterday, only to put together a 9 under the very next day, including birdieing the final 3 holes, capping it off with a 69-foot birdie putt from the knee that locked himself into a tie for 5th place. His first top 5 in an Elite Series since 2019. Keeping in mind he's only recently removed from an earlier A-tier win at Persimmon Ridge. Just one of the men tied with Germ was Nicholas Antala, who put together a solid 7 under final day. Antala, with an absolute winner mindset, surely feels that he could have performed better on this course. Yet this finish, coming off of back-to-back 60th place finishes or higher at the last 2 DGPT events, certainly helps make that pill easier to swallow. Antala is heading to Champions Cup, a final event till he has a quick and much-needed return home. Keep in mind, he performs well at majors, and after this week's performance, looks to be heading in the right direction. Look out now, AB has shown signs that he's human as his streak of top 5s comes to an end with a disappointing 7th place finish that found him tied with 3 others. Look out for fans to start burning those jerseys. AB closed out the weekend with his best score at 9 under, and only had 1 poor performance over the 3 days from not finishing even higher. There's little to worry about AB's game from a fan perspective, as his competition are the ones worrying for the rest of us. One of those tied with AB was Silas Schultz, who registered his highest finish at a DGPT event of his career. Kicked off the round with a 60-foot birdie putt on his way to a 9-down round. Silas improved each day, and on the final day had a clean bogey-free round. And I'm not predicting a run, but this was around the same time of year where Silas got hot last year. Just something to keep in mind.
Ty Love also tied at 19 under, jumping up 9 spots after a clean 8-down day, smacking 8 for 10 of his C1X putts and even snagging a 46-footer on hole 7. I got this video of Ty while he's practicing. On that note, moving on. Gannon Buhr waited until the final round to play his worst after a disappointing 1-under day. Had the worst drive of the lead card to start the round and followed it up with an OB drive on 2, resulting in a bogey. Would 2-putt inside the circle on 5 for his second bogey before back-to-back birdies on 6 and 7 to make his way back to even, only to go OB twice on the next hole for a double bogey. Even with the birdie on 9, Gannon finished the front 1 over. Although he got 2 birdies on the back, he stopped the bleeding, which secured him another top 10 finish this season. Now for some weekend quick hitters. Trey Lewis might be getting dicked down in Dallas, but he spectated Adam Hammes in Tennessee for the final round. Speaking of Hammes, he got this nasty pull from a random card pack opening. James Conrad added his name to the food truck. Getting a pizza box signed is pretty cool, but still doesn't get better than the US champ to sign the bathroom sign. Yeah, didn't think so. Paul Macbeth shows off some of his skills. I'd like to see Ken Climo do that. Ricky Wysocki hit a spectator in the leg to stay out of bounds in hole 18.
I shot an 18 today and someone said that I hit a spotter and stayed OB. What the heck? That's a bummer, but
that might have to be addressed for a later topic, but it's 1 in the morning and I don't really care that much. And that's everything disc golf you need to know from over the weekend. Shout out to everyone we met at MCO. You all made Nashville a must come back for the disc golf world. We promise you will see us again. It's the first major of the disc golf season, so follow the disc golf world to not miss out on any of the action. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. It's the easiest way to support the channel while the boys are on the road. Oh yeah, and if you want to hear about the threats made against the MCO, check out the video right here. Shout out to each and every one of you supporting on Patreon and our members. The tour is 100% funded by you guys, so thank you for letting us follow our passion. We appreciate all of you. Best degenerates in the game.